All right, guys. So, in the previous video, we talked a lot about how to simplify our square roots if we don't have perfect squares. And we talked about finding a perfect square that can come out of 8 and multiplying those to simplify, because then we know this would become 2 root 2. So there's another method I'm going to show you, and I like to call this one the buddy pair method. Go and copy these down as we go through. Okay, so this brings us back to the factor tree that a lot of us did in 6th grade. So you're going to factor the numbers inside the square root symbol. You're going to look for and circle any buddy pairs of numbers along with the factors. Put a square around any numbers that are not a buddy, okay, or not a pair of a pair. You're going to rewrite the numbers as factors to see that the pairs can be removed. Well, anything left over, so any leftovers who don't have a buddy have to stay under the square root symbols. Remove the pairs and leave any leftover numbers inside the square root symbol. Remember that because we are factoring, all of these numbers are being multiplied. So if you end up with multiple numbers outside or inside the square root symbol, you have to multiply them. Whoa, what? Hear me out on this. So we have square root of 8. You know that that becomes the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. Okay, well, can any of these be broken down further? Well, yes, the square root of 4 can become the square root of 2 or the square root of 2. Well, since these both guys have a buddy, there's 1 square root of 2, 2 square root of 2, this is going to just become a 2. Okay, so what they saw, they went a step further, okay, down below here, bear with me, and they said, okay, well, here is a buddy pair. We have a square root of 2 up here that's going to have to stay. So what they saw is, hey, well, I have the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, or, okay, I have a buddy pair here, 2 squared, times the square root of 2 right here, okay? So they get 2 root 2. So hear me out on this. Here's how I would do this. So let's see, we've got the square root of, when I do it this way, I say, okay, well, I have the square root of 8. I know that this can become the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. And I always ask myself, okay, well, can any of these be broken down further? And the answer is yes. This is a perfect square, so this can become the square root of 2 times the square root of 2. Okay, well, you might be asking yourself, okay, well, now what? Look for your buddies, okay? So if I were to say, hey, buddy 1 and buddy 2, you can only have 2 buddies, is the rule for this, then I get rid of, if you have 2 of the same, you can get rid of this square root symbol. So you're going to get the 2, and I have the square root of 2 left over here. Okay, let's try another one. I believe the next one is square root of 40 on your notes. So ask yourself, what can come out of 40? Well, I could get the square root of 4 times the square root of 10. The square root of 4 would become the square root of 2 times the square root of 2. The square root of 10, well, that would be 5 and root 2, right? So look for your buddies. Okay, well, I've got a buddy pair of 2's here, so that means outside of my final answer, I'll have 2. Okay, well, do I have any other buddy pairs for 5 and 2? No. So it's just going to stay 2 root 10 because 5 times 2 is 10. All right, let's try another one. What if, let's see, we had 32. Let's try that one. So 32. If I have square root of 32, ask yourself, well, what can come out of that? Well, there's multiple things. Some of you might say, okay, well, square root 32 could be broken down to 8 and 4, right? Okay, this would become 2 and 2, which is a buddy pair, right? This one would become square root 4 times square root 2. This would become square root 2, square root 2. Oh, buddy pair again. Okay, so here you might be saying, great, well, I have this buddy pair, so that's 2. I have this buddy pair, that's another 2. And then I have my original square root of 2 here without a buddy. Okay, but remember, now we have to multiply 2 times 2, which is 4, to get 4 root 2. Whoa, Ms. Versky, what just happened? Let's try another method. If I have the square root of 32 here, that can become the square root of 16 times the square root of dose 2. Well, I know the square root of 16 could be broken down to the square root of 4 times the square root of 4, the perfect square. Oh, hey, now I have buddies. So that's just going to be 4, and I'm left with the square root of 2. Now notice how we both got the same answer, 4 root 2 and 4 root 2. Doesn't matter which way, but in the notes they mentioned that if I have 2 times 2 on the outside, I have to make sure I multiply those. So it becomes 4 root 2. Let's try another one. We've got 45. Let's go and try that one. All right, so if I've got the square root of 45, you know that can be broken down to the square root of 9 times the square root of 5. The square root of 9 could become square root 3, square root 3. Hey, I've got a buddy pair of 3's, which means those now become 3 on the outside with root 5 on the inside. Because those are a buddy pair. Once they have their buddy, they can be kicked out to the outside of the square root symbol. Okay? What if I go ahead and jot these down with you, or in your notes somewhere? What if I gave you square root 50? Well, I know through this method, that would be square root 25, right, times square root 2. Can any of those be broken down further? Yes. 25 could be broken down to square root 5 times square root 5. Do I have any buddy pairs? Yes. Circle your buddy. All right, so now that will be on the outside of my final answer. Root 2 on the inside. Okay, what if I were to give you, let's say square root 42? Well, this could be 6, right? This could be 7. 6 can be broken down to square root 2 times square root 3. Hey, are any of these buddies? No. So that's just going to stay the square root of 42. Okay. So let's scroll down below and try a few more. Let's try, we did 50 already. Let's try 200 with this method. So 200 with this method would be square root 200. Okay. So we know we can multiply, oh man, root 100, okay, times root 2. Root 100 can be broken down to what? Yeah, square root 10 times the square root of 10. Okay, well look, we've got our buddy pair. So that means 10 will be on the outside. Root 2 is left over on the inside. Didn't have a buddy. What about 72? Well, 72 could be, let's see, 9 times 8. Square root 9 times the square root of 8. 9 becomes 3 because we have 3 and 3 buddy pairs, so that's going to be 3 on the outside. 8 can become 4 and 2. 2 and 2. Oh, hey, there's a buddy pair. So this is 2, right? So that's going to now become a 2 on the outside. 3 times 2 is 6. And I still have that leftover square root of 2 that did not have a buddy pair. So this is all about finding the buddy pairs, okay? So what I really want you to do is think about oh, that was awkward, sorry.